Hello and welcome to another episode of the Mind to Lead podcast. And today I am sat and joined with Nguyen. String, amazing to have you here today.
Thanks for having me today.
So,
and hey, Kyle in the background.
Kyle's making sure this podcast gets recorded and goes live. So, String, you are the founder of Trusted Voice, and you have posted some incredible content. I follow you on LinkedIn. I think you're absolutely amazing. And look, I guess the reason why I wanted to do this today and get you on is because let's focus today on LinkedIn especially. There's a lot of changes that are happening. LinkedIn have just brought in stories to test here in Australia. And I've had quite a few people reach out to me saying, how should we be using it to grow our personal brand? So let's just kick off a little bit about you and your story and what sort of, I guess, brought you to this industry, what sort of made you interested in it. And I'll let you kick off with a little bit about your story.
So I've been in video space for the last couple of years, and one of the reasons why I got into video was because being, I guess, an Asian female in the tech space, I felt like I didn't have a voice. And particularly when I was younger, I felt like I didn't have a voice. So being online allows me to find my confidence and create my own narrative. So I just use like whatever resources I have with me to find my own place in the world. And LinkedIn is one of them, but before I started on LinkedIn, I gained my confidence on live streaming platforms like Meerkat that was similar to Periscope, on Snapchat. And so I've been just building video channels along the way. And the day that I want to notice that Snapchat was going down because it wasn't great for business, but great for networking, was the day that I want to switch over to Instagram. But that's also the day that LinkedIn knocked onto my message and said, hey, String, I love your videos. Would you like to have access to the beta program for videos on LinkedIn? So that was 3 years ago. And since then, I kind of became a channel on LinkedIn and became recognized as top voice on LinkedIn 3 times in a row. So have you heard of LinkedIn Top Voice?
Yeah. It's pretty big.
Yeah, it is. It's given to the top creators worldwide. So I'm one of the 300 or something like that.
Wow. Amazing. Well, so what a journey. So you just said then that you started video to find your voice, to find the confidence, which fascinates me because a lot of people would shy away if they didn't have the confidence. The last thing they'd want to do is go on video. So what were the steps that you took to, I guess, just start posting, start getting more confident on video and just going for it?
I think the most important thing is to embrace that everyone's going to be super awkward. No one starts out confident unless they're being trained or they think they're a movie star or they stop, but then again, Australia has this thing against anyone who has too much of an ego. We're not Americans, right? We're not like, hey, look at me, I'm awesome. But it's more that the fact that we can be quietly confident, whether it be our brains or quietly confident in the expertise that we built over years. So we should really just acknowledge that all the years that we've worked is backed by that progress. So how do you shine that through? And I guess a lot of times fear hold us back from sharing our knowledge and expertise. And it's also the fear of judgment as well. And I guess the biggest fear is not dying. I heard the biggest fear is talking to in front of a lot of people. So that fear kind of is associated with video itself or creating content itself. So I think it's everyone competing against their own self more than the critique of others, I think. And once you get over that fear, everyone's on that journey. Everyone wants to share something. It's just a matter of you going out there and sharing your knowledge and continually doing it, because the way that social media is working doesn't reward you for posting one thing. It rewards people who are constantly sharing and reinforcing that message all the time. And personal branding is walking in your own authenticity, awkward authenticity every day anyway.
I absolutely love that. In fact, you and I are on the same page here, because I literally a few days ago posted a blog about, is confidence the key to success? And not confidence in that arrogant ego way, but confidence from that inner trust that you just trust yourself, you believe in yourself. So and there's so many people that I speak to that are so scared about what you just said there, judgment, about what other people will think. Like, why do we care? Like, have you got any thoughts around that?
Yeah, because we want to, I guess like it's the ego thing in all of us, right? We do want to be popular and liked, but but would you rather be popular or respected? That's the difference, right? And you don't have, as females as well, you don't have to share your boobies or your tits out there or
Yeah.
something like that. And a lot of people play that game, but beauty only has a short lifespan. Like, hey, I know that I'm cute and I take advantage of that, but I'm not here to be acknowledged for being cute. I'm acknowledged here to be smart, or that go-to expert, or the trusted voice in marketing and personal branding, right? I'm going to be here for the next 10 years, not for that like short-term gain. And a lot of times like people want that candy rush or that validation more than anything else. And it's funny because we know that good things takes time and it compounds over time. But when we try something new, and things like when we become experts and we try something new, if it doesn't work out at the beginning, we give up too easily.
Yeah, I completely agree. And when people first start posting content, they're like you just said, they'll post once or twice, then maybe get 2 likes, they'll feel disheartened, they'll go, oh, I'm not doing this again. So I'd love to hear, like, how long did it take you to build up your following? Like, how many times were you posting? What were you doing?
I go tell the truth, and because I'm always the person that tells the truth. On LinkedIn, my first video went viral, but that's
Wow.
because of the proximity, right? But to reach to that viral video, I had to set up 3 channels beforehand.
Yeah, correct. Right.
And so it's like that, we've seen that iceberg story, right?
Yes, yes.
Everyone always sees, and I always use the iceberg because it really shows that people that considers overnight success, but they don't see the hard work that goes to that. And I have to say that I almost failed English as well, like writing wise English, when I was in high school, and people won't see that much. They could see it sometimes because I have free editors that comes and shares their thoughts about how I should write and stuff, or correct my English and stuff. But I don't mind, and I always joke around with them. It's like, do you think it's the core message or the way I written? And they usually typically laugh. But I think over time I realized that people just want to have permission to reach out to me through my content. So you have to write, create, make videos for people to reach out to you. And that's what personal branding is. It's not being a company. It's about being relatable enough so people could reach out to you.
Absolutely. And let's talk about personal branding for a little bit there, because I feel like everyone's still trying to find their voice. I truly believe everyone's got a unique gift to give to the world, and it really is finding what that is for you. So if someone was to reach out to you today and say, hey, String, I want to start my personal brand, where would I even begin? What are the sort of steps that you'd say to people?
I usually have a thing called the 7 V's. It's the 7 V's of framework of personal branding and influence. So what's your vision? What's your personal vision for the world? And a lot of people confuse that with value proposition or goals. But your vision is something that's your North Star, the reason that you wake up every day, your reason for being. And it could be something as simple as increasing creative vibes in the world. And the second one is your values. There's 2 values, but the more you know your personal values, what drives you, what makes you, it's almost like your moral compass. And if you go against your values, you feel like there's something inherently wrong. And for example, if you believe in diversity, but there's a lack of diversity, then you work for a non-diverse company, and then you wake up every day thinking there's something wrong. It's something like that, right? So it's like values are something, even though are your core moral compass, I'll call them. And there's also values in terms of like, your unique value proposition within the market, how you position yourself, and like that, because there's a lot of people that does personal branding, but what's your point of difference?
Yeah.
And the third one is Volk, which is like the German word for folks. But vogue is like the people. Who are your ideal clients that you want to serve?
Mm-hmm.
And the more you know who your content is, not everyone, but specifically what they're like, their interests, you could create content around them, right? And your fourth one is your voice. And this is important because it goes to this topic again. It's like, what are your key messages, your topic pillars that will reinforce your expertise and your influence, and also backs up your vision. And what was it? Validation is the next one. That's more your goals, like what's your metrics of success. And my one's like how many fried chicken stories I get per day. And a fifth one is like the visuals, and the last one, the sixth one's visuals, like, what brand association you want people to connect you with. Is it your blonde hair, blue eyes, green hair? Your face is pretty much your like brand, right? So the more you show your face, the more people associate that with your core message. That's why video is a trust accelerator. And the last one is victory. How do you monetize this? Because content is hard. Building a brand is hard. So you need to monetize this. Otherwise, what's the point? Why do you do this every day? Or why do you make it like a brand is something that's like an equity that you have to build over time. It's not like a short-term plan.
Wow, that's amazing. I love the 7 V's. I've never actually had anyone describe it so simple like that. So that just makes a lot of sense. And, I think the hardest ones for people, actually there's 3 that stand out for me. Values. There are so many people that I'll put my hand up to really say that it wasn't until I lived in alignment with my values that I really actually understood who I was, and I became a lot happier. For example, I realized my values was health, freedom, trust, and honesty. And the jobs that
really pretty.
The job that I was working in at the time, it didn't provide me with any freedom. It certainly wasn't good for my health because I was so anxious all the time. And I just wasn't being authentic because I was in sales and I felt like I was like living a lie. So how would you suggest that people go about with that point there, finding their values? Do you have any advice?
Yeah, like have you heard of like John D. Martini?
Yes, love his work.
And he has like a really good value test that everyone should do. And it's not even, if you look at his value systems, he just knows how to categorize things better. And I guess like you have to really have 20 minutes, even to an hour, just like really finding out what's important to you and categorizing it. And when you categorize your values, you realize like, because people don't reflect enough. We don't have internal conversations with ourselves or even reflect about like, is this job right for me? And the fact that you could articulate what was wrong with that job kind of articulates like why you were so unhappy. And a lot of people are really unhappy with their jobs most of the time, right? It's because they never talk to themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I read a stat the other day that like 85% of people don't actually enjoy their job. And I was like, oh my God, that is so friggin' sad. Like, and I'll put my hand up and say at one point I was one of them. I was going into a job every single day that provided me with no passion, no purpose. And I thought, God, is this it? But unfortunately, a lot of people get stuck. They have big mortgages, they have families, and, and then it becomes like well, how am I going to get out of this? And it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy where they just constantly get into that loop of going through the motions of life. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about was the whole monetization piece, because that's really interesting, because I think a lot of people, they want to start their own business. They want to start, voicing their thoughts and things, but they go, well, how am I going to make a living out of this? So any tips of how people can do that?
Well, like if you Instagrammers make money on Instagram, that if the Instagrammer can do it, you can do it as well.
Yeah,
is what I usually say. And if you look at a money map, it's just like finding out like if you break it down, there's so many ways of creating income streams from your knowledge. You can sell your e-course, create an ebook, you could create a membership, you could create like the most scalable way is creating product, not selling your time. That's something that I really value as well. It's like if you don't, if you sell your time, then people will buy your time, but it's limited, whereas a product is more scalable. So even then, like when you start out, like, do you think you could be a coach? do you set up a program? You create a training? Like, think of all the things that you should do to monetize your knowledge if you have to. And sometimes you just have to like look at different business models to consider like there's more than one ways to create money and not focus all in one basket. Like one, putting all your eggs in one basket is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think actually one thing that I believe this pandemic has taught us, and what it's actually enabled us to do, is take a pause. Actually just go, am I happy with my job right now? Have I got, a multiple streams of income? What is coming? So what sort of trends have you seen? Have you seen more people wanting to come online? I bet your business is booming at the moment with people reaching out being like, hey, help me, I don't know what to do.
Oh, well, like I feel like on UK, booming in UK and America, and Australia is like I have to say, like, unfortunately we're hearing I could see the second wave of the pandemic again because everyone's not getting complacent and they think that it's go back to normality, but we're in the highest peak of unemployment rate around the world right now.
Yeah, wow.
So personal brand is really important because you have to stand out. How can you market yourself more better? And creating content is one way of like marketing yourself better because very few people on LinkedIn are creating content right now.
Yeah.
Whether it be stories or whether it be on like people are watching. So the more you increase those touch points, the more that you have an opportunity to be the first choice of that person's like opportunity, be that first choice.
Completely agree. Let's actually dig into stories now, because I'd love to hear your thoughts on how we should be using them. So I was super excited when they came. I was like, wah! And I think like everybody, I just kind of like just started posting and I thought, hang on a second, is there a better way? Because I think, and this is the thing that people I feel get overwhelmed by, is that they've got so much social platforms, right? There's Instagram, there's Facebook, there's LinkedIn, there's YouTube, there's podcasts. Like, where do people begin, right? So now LinkedIn have just got stories and it's just like another thing to do. So let's just break it down for people. Like, what would be the advice that you'd give if someone was completely new?
Well, I guess I want to freak out people a little bit because, like, I feel like, have you been watching other people's stories?
I
Have you
have.
seen any good ones? Have you seen good ones? Like, that stood out
Uh,
to you?
uh, the fact that I
No,
can't.
that's the thing.
Yeah.
That's the
Okay.
thing.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm pretty brutal in terms of content creators. Professionals are not content creators. They're recycling Instagram over or TikTok over. And I don't mind those, right? Because they're actually better tools than actual LinkedIn stories at the moment. But they're really boring because they don't add any interesting elements and they're really promotional on it. And I think it's because like they don't know how to tell that story or how to like show their values. And that's probably means like, okay, I just got to say it out there. And I even talked to the LinkedIn team about it. They're really boring at the moment because it's because like people are not showing the attributes or the superpowers in an interesting way. And that's because they weren't taught the skills, and I get that. But you need to like think of it as like creating content and consuming content is different. But to maintain attention, you need to think about how to be a storyteller that presents stories in a way that's interesting and captures attention, right? You don't want to go 5 20-second videos just talking about one topic.
Okay.
You can, but you need to have text. You need to have like almost a narrative to it, right? And I think so. And I think people are interested in stories, but I feel like because there's so many shit stories out there, I feel like people are not interested in.
Yeah. Okay.
So it drops. So if the threshold or the quality is not high enough, then everyone will stop. But it's also an opportunity for people like good creators just to stand out. If you're above the average, then new stories.
Okay. So I always thought when it comes to stories, what I've always been taught is stories are kind of like behind the scenes. So it's like an insight to your day. So I'll speak about me because maybe this is what other people are doing. But what I've been doing is basically just, running through people through my morning routine, so what that looks like. And then right now, Kyle is taking a couple of snaps of us doing the podcast. So is that good? Is that right? Is that wrong? Like thoughts on that?
Well, it's just one way of doing it, but if you do that every day, would that be interesting?
Probably not. No, people are going to get bored of my face.
Because you're not sharing anything else. If you share the
Mm.
insights or like a learning behind it, then I think people will do it. Like uh I think my one is like the one that I know people love. People love behind the scenes, true. But if you do it every day, then it gets
Boring.
what you're doing is behind, yes.
Yeah.
So it's like this, like people don't want to like it's like a playing a piano, right? You never hear a piano goes flatline like that, right? It
Mm.
goes, it needs a crescendo or something like that, or even like slows down. So then when you know something exciting goes up, then it pops out and then it slows down again. And a lot of people don't think like that. But if you have I think my favorite one is like when people treat, I think, I don't, like I show what I'm doing or a leading up to behind the scenes of like a product that I'm working on or tools that I'm working on. But I think my ones that the people always tune into when I treat it almost like a show. Like one of the reasons why I grew on Snapchat was when I have like a almost like a Tech Tuesday or Tool Tuesday or something like that, and I go and talk about like how I use um, Google Docs for business, something like that. Or on Fridays, I'm doing a but or not game. So people have to like play a game with me because I get so many inbound messages. So I get like 50 messages all the time, and then we have to play a game of but or not. But it's just like a good way of like showing like how I'm a good marketer and content creator and stuff like that. So think of it in your way as like almost like every, like if you had to set a mini show about something, it's like, or you know, a key learning from your podcast. And it doesn't take long.
Yeah, okay. So could it be almost like, I'm just trying to make this really simple for myself and others. So what you just said then, like, so teaching Tuesday. So could you have themes? Would that make it easy for
Yes.
people? So it's like
Yeah.
Monday motivation, teaching Tuesday. I don't
Yeah,
know.
but it'd be tiring if you do that too much, right?
Yeah.
So just do it
Okay.
once a week
Right. Okay.
because you know, by doing that, then it increases like people look forward to that. So they might not see you every day, but they look forward to that. And then in between the others, then you could show behind the scenes, insights, um, some be creative about it. Like the reason why TikTok works is because at least you could create a portfolio experience about the theme of that channel.
Okay.
But
Okay.
well, and LinkedIn stories, because like people still wear the professional mask, that there should be more like how do you become more authentic about yourself or something like that.
Yeah.
And you're really charismatic on video, so even you just like sharing some insights about something, I think people will really relate to that. It's like, hey, I did a podcast with String today and I learned about her 7 V's, you should tune in. Like even that itself is better than things like that, right? Or like show them behind the scenes, like set up a show, product promotions, or, or what else is there? Like if you're like a fashion person, you show your cupboards once a week. It's like, here,
Right.
I'm going to show you something like that. That's thematic to your, relating to your thing, not, so you just have to make it into a show. That's how I grew rapidly, by showing it into like a show, having it once a week, and then it will increase your your retention for like stories, for example. But even then, like LinkedIn, there's so many platforms out there. I'm answering on your questions, and for people who are new, it's just understanding which platforms would like. You could have two choices. You pick the platform that you like the most, and, or you pick the platform that has your audience.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
And the one who smarter one like is always like you pick the audience. You don't
Yeah.
pick the one that you like the most, because then
Yeah.
you're like, why am I not growing? It's because that you pick the one that you're most comfortable with.
Yeah.
That's not the best way to do it.
I think that's it, isn't it? It's like, for me at the moment, my audience originally was on LinkedIn because I have a recruitment company, so it's very B2B. And then with the Mind Body to Lead in the podcast, a lot of our audience is on Instagram. So it's like
Yes.
relearning things as well. So if you're somebody who perhaps has got a business and is a bit more corporate, but also has a side hustle as well, and is starting to grow on Instagram, is it, how different should our content be? Like, is it, because I do sort of see some people sort of
Well,
posting the same thing. Like, is that a good thing? Is it a bad thing?
I think it dilutes it because then people are confused with your brand.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Uh, I think that's just me because like actually the fastest way to meld it is find the intersection between the two
Hmm.
and finding the umbrella approach to it because then your messaging will be a lot more consistent.
Right.
Like I think my Instagram is just me being an influencer or content creator.
Mm-hmm.
And people who hang out on Instagram stories is a lot of like people who are fans of mine or who are in the industry want to see my insights because I'm a little bit more like awkward and authentic.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like that on my stories as well because I notice engagement is higher because I do really strong call to actions as well. And my LinkedIn posts tends to be more personal branding stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And my primary channel is LinkedIn
Mm-hmm.
because I noticed like very few good creators are there. But the next channel that I want to focus on afterwards is LinkedIn, YouTube.
Right. Okay.
So
Interesting.
once you know how to like
Mm.
how to focus on if you're after you're really good in one channel, then you could whatever learnings you have on there, you could apply it onto the next one because they're very similar.
Mm-hmm.
But they're just like you just need to optimize for each channel.
Yeah, I know. I think that's it, isn't it? It's quite, it can be quite overwhelming when people first start thinking about their personal brands, go, where should I go? But what you just said there is beautiful. Just go where your audience is. Maybe just pick one, do one well, and then sort of start branching out from there once you've started to build up your confidence and you know, what your message is, what your values are, and who
Mm-hmm.
your sort of, yeah, your core buyer is. But any other sort of, I guess, trends that you're foreseeing coming up, you know, on any sort of platform that, you know, perhaps we could be looking out for, any ways that we could, any little hacks or
Yeah.
tips or tricks at the moment that you're using that are getting a good result?
Well, I think TikTok is like it, if you want to learn videos, TikTok is probably the best tool out there because it's
Mm.
such a creator's tool and it forces you to be creative.
Mm-hmm.
And then you could save that video and upload it onto LinkedIn Stories because LinkedIn Stories itself doesn't have all the assets to create interesting stories, right?
Mm.
And then when I told like LinkedIn, I was like, hey, LinkedIn, you do, I said this on the first day. I think you're lacking in tools. That's why I'm using Instagram stories to create my stories onto LinkedIn. And they laughed because they know that. And then acknowledge that. That's why it's not ready out for full rollout because it's so minimal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Haven't you noticed how minimal it is? Just
Yeah,
titles, mentions.
yeah, you can't do any of
Um,
like the swipe ups or anything like that. So,
yes.
mm,
Yeah, and so that means like they're probably going to be like that for a while. So that's why all the filters, all the stickers, all the little gifs that I want to add, I'm using Instagram stories to create my LinkedIn.
right,
And LinkedIn
okay.
don't care anyway. Do you know
Mm-hmm.
why? Because you're still using stories.
Correct,
So it does
correct.
so um but don't do post into Instagram stories.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, or vertical, I mean, like landscape videos and upload them. People
Mm-hmm.
like native experience and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
People will watch it, but I don't think it has that same connection that they want with the
Yeah.
stories.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think a lot of times, like, you just need to focus on one, but I really think TikTok is the trend that everyone should jump onto. Because even I am as well, and I'm preparing August to be the a deep dive for me to go onto TikTok and stuff.
Well, I will certainly be taking note on that. But I think for me, I guess I did look at TikTok, but I think for my audience, perhaps that's not where my key buyer is. But I think maybe for good practice, then it's certainly a platform that I might check out. But look, String, I really appreciate you have given so much value today. It's just amazing. I've taken so many notes. But you know, just sort of final point. You know, like what advice would you just give for somebody who, you know, was just really, really starting out, just the one thing they could do, you know, right now, just to kickstart their personal brand? Where would you sort of say is good to begin?
Do the 7 V's, because that's even if you don't go through all the V's and don't know the answers, at least it makes you conscious of what you need to work on. Even if you achieve 2 out of 7, that's like a good starting point. Then you know what you need to work on next. But the fact is that the 7 V's is like an ongoing one, because I find that my vision only came to light after a year of honing in on that.
Right.
Because that's the hardest to achieve, right? But that's because like my values came out faster, but my voice came out afterwards. But then it's always like ongoing progress, and just know that we're a work in progress.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's the thing, like when people think of their vision, they think they've got to be this big grand thing. And, you know, it doesn't have to be. It could just be to create content that make people smile. It could be to be an amazing mom. It could be, you know, just to, educate somebody on something that you're passionate about. So it doesn't have to be, I want to change the world. You know, it can be just, you know, what brings you joy.
Yeah, and I think so. Like, I love that. Like, people try to say, "Hi, I'll go hit $1 million," and it's like, no, is that really aligns with your values?
Yeah.
And you kind of just know when I look at everyone's like, do they really align? Because they say something, but they're never repeated throughout the whole V's.
Yeah. Okay.
And then I have to challenge them back. It's like, hey, I noticed that this is the most thing that you're most passionate about. How come you don't bring that in all the way thinking and being that you are right now? And I think it's just finding that joy, and how do you, because people, like you said, like if they don't know how to connect money or monetization with it, they won't do it because they think they're forced to do something else they're not willing to do and stuff. So I really like that. What brings you joy? If you could spark that out and do that every day, what can you do?
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to say as well, like I think when it comes to passion and purpose, like everybody is just on their own journey with it, and it can change, you know, and it takes a lot of courage to really sit down and do the 7 V's and really understand who you are. And you said it so beautifully earlier, you said people don't reflect enough, you know, and I just think it's using this time now that we are pausing, that we're not commuting, to really get to know yourself and what you want, and then have the courage to just go for it, basically. Make mistakes. I think that's a big thing as well. Like, go and do a story and stuff it up and look like a fool, you know, because again, it's all about learning and experiencing and just not being too serious with it as well, you know.
Yeah,
so
have fun.
Have
fun. Like, that's why I use fried chicken a lot, because it kind of shows that I'm having fun along the way. And if you're going to have fun along the way and find your passion along the way, then everything else is just a learning experience. Even things that doesn't work well is a learning experience.
Yeah, correct. String, where can people find you if they want to reach out and find out more about you and connect?
I'm on LinkedIn, String Story, Instagram String Story, YouTube String Story. I'm String Story everywhere. So, but I'd love for you, if you particularly want to build up your personal brand and need some help, reach out. I'm pretty easygoing.
Just straight to the point, just such an easy formula. I absolutely love it. Well, thank you so much. I've absolutely loved it. I've got so much out of this, and I'm sure everyone else will as well. So, String, you've been amazing. Thank you so much. And speak to you soon. Thank you so much for listening to the Mind to Lead podcast. I really hope you got some great takeaways and key learnings from this episode. To help us spread the message, please give us a rating and leave us a review. We love reading your thoughts and your insights and your learnings. And look, reach out to me. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm Georgie Hubbard. Reach out to me on Instagram. I'm Georgie L. Hubbard. Let's connect. I hope you have an incredible day, and I look forward to speaking to you all again soon.